let the Warren Commission know some of the developments that were leading up to the assassination of the president and the cover-up that was being engaged in by the Office of the Secret Service, the redictating of reports, the changing of dates, in order to obfuscate what happened in Chicago and in Miami. I thought that that would be important to the investigators who were seeking to find out how the president was assassinated. However, when I went to Washington, D.C. on May the 17th of 1964, I tried to contact J.D. Rankin, who was one of the consuls for the Warren Commission. Apparently, the Secret Service were back in Chicago, knew that I would make that attempt because I was very adamant in that my speech against what the Secret Service was doing, that was improper, that was wrong, and their hesitancy in the protection of President Kennedy because they had lost focus of their duties and responsibilities as was given to them by Congress. And that was to protect the presidency of the United States and not the president of the United States. They had lost focus. But anyway, on May the 17th, I went to Washington, D.C., and I attempted to contact J.D. Rankin, who was one of the chief counsels for the Warren Commission. Now, I was being placed under surveillance, and I was suspicious because one of the agents who was attending the Secret Service school, it appeared to me that he was following me around. As a matter of fact, I visited the White House in trying to find maybe J.D. Rankin's extension on a Rolodex, his telephone number, or try to find out how I could contact him. On May the 18th, while I was in Washington, D.C., the personnel director of the Secret Service, Mr. Howard Anderson, came to me and said that I was needed back in Chicago for a counterfeiting case in one of the suburbs. They put me on an American Airlines and flew me back to Chicago, where I was taken to the office of the United States Attorney. I was held there until 12 o'clock midnight, where finally they told me that they were going to charge me with trying to sell a Secret Service document to a counterfeiter whom I had arrested, through another counterfeiter whom I had arrested for the price of $50,000, which was ridiculous. So I had two trials, Mr. Coleman. I had two trials. At the end of the first trial, the jury was deliberating. And during the deliberation of the jury, the judge called the jury out from the jury room and gave the jury his opinion. The judge told the jury that in his opinion, that I was guilty of all the counts of the indictment, and to go back in the jury room and deliberate, taking into consideration his opinion. So that made the judge a 13th juror. But that jury did not reach a verdict. I was tried a second time within the time frame of 2 weeks by the same judge who refused to recuse himself. During the deliberation of the jury, In the second trial, the judge cleared the courtroom of all people except government employees. That included me, my attorney, and those people who had come to be with me in my time of sorrow. We were locked out of the court building while the jury was still deliberating. On my way home that night, and that was August the 12th of 1964, I heard on one of the radio stations that the jury had reached a verdict, and the verdict was sealed and would be returned the next day. Of course, the verdict was guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was all set up. There were many people who had come to the trial who could not believe what had happened. But due to the climate of racism that was abound during that period of time, I was not surprised how the verdict came about. I don't think that that opinion given to the jury was constitutional, so we appealed the conviction. In the meantime, while the case was still on appeal, on or about January 25th of 1965, while my case was on appeal, one of the witnesses against me, Joseph Blacknolly, admitted under oath that he committed perjury in my trial. And not only that, he said that the government gave him the testimony that they wanted him to say in my trial. He produced a handwritten document in the handwriting of one of the assistant state's attorney, Richard Sykes, where the testimony had been written out for Joseph Spagnoli to remember. The judge who was in my trial also was the judge in Spagnoli's trial. So the judge asked Spagnoli, are you admitting that you committed perjury in the Bolden trial? He said, yes, sir. He says, you committed perjury? He said, yes, sir. And he commenced to ask Spagnoli what he had committed perjury about and why did he commit perjury. And Spagnoli answered that he committed perjury at the behest of the government to make himself look good and also to get favor in his case. Spagnoli was also under indictment at that time as a counterfeiter. As I said, I was in on the arrest of Joseph Spagnoli, and he was going on trial himself. Now, in October of 1965, the case was being argued before the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeal, when the issue of Spagnoli's perjury and the government's subornation of perjury came up during the argument. The Chief Judge of the United States Court of Appeals asked that Richard Sykes, who was accused of suborning perjury, was summoned before the Chief Judge. Richard Sykes was directly asked by the Chief Judge, did you suborn perjury in the Bolden trial, United States versus Abraham Bolden? He asked Sykes that 3 times. On the 3rd time, Sykes answered, Your Honor, I refuse to answer on the grounds that my answer may tend to incriminate me. He took the 5th Amendment. Now here you have the United States Attorney taking the 5th Amendment as to whether or not he created or suborned perjury against an agent of the United States government, and nothing was done about it. The Court of Appeals affirmed the conviction, so we appealed to the United States Supreme Court, who upheld the Court of Appeals. So I knew I was on my way to the penitentiary and that the government would stop at no end in trying to discredit me. Now, I began serving my time on June the 26th of 1966. I was taken from the county jail and placed in Terre Haute, Indiana. From Terre Haute Penitentiary in Indiana, I went from there to Fort Leavenworth Prison in Kansas. I was transferred from Fort Leavenworth Prison to Springfield Medical Center in Springfield, Missouri. Now, the thing about the medical center in Springfield, Missouri is this. It's 4 institutions into one. It's a terminal center for inmates who are being transferred from east to the west coast. It's also a hospital for inmates who have injuries or need operation or need any type of medical attention. It's also a place where the camp inmates, we have camp there, and those inmates take care of the grounds, cafeteria, and the maintenance of the institution. There is also there a psychiatric division, and that's where nobody wants to go. This is where they keep the prisoners who are psychotic, psychiatric, mentally disturbed. And I knew that eventually that they were going to try to discredit me by placing me in such an institution. I had experienced that in that the Billy Salestas case, there was a secretary who had some information concerning the Billy Salestas case involving President Johnson. And she wound up in St. Elizabeth Hospital in Washington, D.C., where they tried to declare her insane. So I knew that they would do the same technique against me. And on July the 6th, 1967, they removed me from the camp at 3 o'clock in the morning, marched me over to the psychiatric unit, 21 East, without any declaration of my mental state of mind and sanity, without any conversation with the judge concerning the reclassification of me as an inmate. They marched me over to 21 East and placed me in the psychiatric ward and forced me to take psychotropic drugs. What they were planning to do, sir, is to declare me insane, and once that they had declared me insane, then I could no longer do time until I was released as certified sane again by a United States District Judge. Mm-hmm. That means that I could be sitting there right now, serving a sentence of 6 years. But so long as I was under treatment for the reason of being insane, I'm not doing time, I'm being treated by the federal government for a medical condition. And that was one of the low parts in my life. I didn't fear much, though, because I knew that I was going to come out okay.